Good afternoon and welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm Maeve Corbett. Coming up today, Winchester battered by Storm Dara. We hear the story of a girl suffering with endometriosis. And Hampshire is lit up by a spectacular steam train. Storm Dara brought chaos and destruction over the weekend, and Winchester was no exception. Transport, festive events and football were all impacted by the bad weather. Elliot McVie can take us through how the storm has affected the local area.
This weekend's weather has wreaked havoc up and down the United Kingdom, with flood and wind warnings in place well into Sunday evening. And whilst Hampshire may not have felt the full force of Dara's wrath, the storm's effects are there for all to see. The disruption began on Friday night, when the A34 just outside Winchester was closed to allow national highways to remove potentially vulnerable trees. Public transport was also affected. South Western Railway announced on Saturday morning that a fallen tree had blocked the line between Romsey and Salisbury, cancelling all trains on the route for several hours. In the city itself, Winchester Cathedral Christmas Market was forced to close for the third time already this year. The market was initially due to open at the later time of 1 PM before eventually being cancelled altogether. The world of sport didn't fare too much better either. It was Storm Dara 1, football 0, as almost all of our local games fell victim to the wind and rain. This included Winchester City's trip to Taunton Town and Eastleigh's big FA Trophy tie against Hanwell. The weather was too strong even for Father Christmas. An event organised by Winchester Round Table would have seen Santa Claus greeting children in the city on Saturday afternoon. The organisers said,
"Due to high winds today in Winchester city centre, Santa will not be able to land in Friarsgate Garden between 3 PM and 5 PM. We will do our best to rearrange this event with Winchester City Council just as soon as we can."
So now that the storm has passed, the focus will turn to recovering and repairing the damage caused. Elliot McVie, Winchester News Online.
Now over to Jade Edwards-Lowe with more updates.
Thank you, Maeve. I'm here at St Catherine's Hill where the devastation caused by Storm Dara is still very evident. Many trees, like the one behind me, was brought down by winds that peaked over 77 miles per hour, causing disruption to local walking routes. There are, however, many others across Hampshire impacting roads and local safety. Today, the focus remains on recovery. As we know, 86,000 homes across England, Scotland and Wales were without power this weekend, with SSEN working to restore electricity in areas like Hersey, Compton Down and Sparshot here in Hampshire. The majority of homes in places such as Romsey and Coldham Common has their power fully restored by midday Monday, but some residents in Ampfield report the occasional flickering of lights continuing today. As of yet, there has however been no official statement made by local authorities regarding issues with power today. Transport has been heavily impacted. South Western Railway services remain partially suspended between Weymouth and Poole, with significant delays reported across the wider network. Red Funnel has resumed a reduced ferry service across the Solent, but passengers are advised to check schedules before travelling. Motorways and key A roads, including the A31 and parts of the M3, have reopened after initial closures, but some smaller roads in Hampshire are still obstructed by debris. Locally, the storm has caused damage to residential fences, raising concerns for homeowners already facing increased winter costs. Here in Winchester, the focus remains on clearing blocked roads and restoring access to residential areas. The fallen tree behind me is one of many symbols of the storm's destruction and serves as a stark reminder of the work still needed to bring communities back to normal. For now, residents are advised to avoid non-essential travel, report hazards to local authorities and remain cautious. We'll continue to monitor developments and provide updates as the recovery unfolds. Back to you in the studio.
In the UK, more than 16 million people live with a disability, and yet they feel as though they are being excluded. Scope, a disability charity, has reported that 3 in 4 disabled people have experienced discrimination in the past 5 years, from being abused in the street left on trains, and overlooked for job opportunities. However, activists Celia Chatrezeres and Jet Gates tell our reporter Jodie Kelly that now is the time for all of this to change.
Every day, we walk past hundreds of people, and yet we presume it's only the blind, elderly, or wheelchair-bound who are disabled. But 27-year-old Celia Chatrezeres, who lives with multiple organ failure and is unable to eat and swallow, is fighting to change that.
Living with this kind of weight on top of you that you are effectively dying and you're in multiple organ failure and you can't participate in so-called normal day-to-day activities is massive, and it does have an enormous impact on your mental health and how you go about living. You know, what's scary is the fact that we think about 80% of disabilities are non-visible, so you can't see them with the naked eye and you have no idea what someone is going through just by looking at them. But when you say the word disability to someone, instantly they go wheelchair user, blind, guide dog, probably got a walking stick, prosthetic leg, they've got a limb difference. That is the image of disability that so far has been projected. What's happening is a violation of human rights and nobody's talking about it. And I, in my mind, cannot fathom why, but that's the situation that we're in.
But Cecilia isn't the only person wanting change. The university's own Jet Gate says they're on a mission to change the world. But what would that look like?
It's about seeing yourself in forms that it's like everyday forms. Go into a toy shop and seeing a wheelchair Barbie, or being able to turn on the TV and there being a deaf person visibly represented in your everyday life means so much to so many people, and it means so much to me because the ability to see myself recognised in everyday life is incredible. Less than 1% of media represents disabled people, even though we make up 25% of the population. Come on. We need some more actual proper inclusion.
Celia and Jet's mission to fight for and improve disabled rights and representation has led them to Downing Street, to speak in Parliament, and to improve accessibility in airports. But they believe there is still a long, long way to go. Jodie Kelly, Winchester News Online.
Now for a Winol exclusive with the Romsey and Southampton North MP and recently elected Deputy Speaker Caroline Noakes. Our political editor Rhys Huggett sat down for an all-encompassing interview covering an array of local issues.
Caroline has a history of fighting for her constituency in a variety of areas, including farming.
I'm very conscious that any farm in my constituency, by the time it's got a farmhouse and a couple of farm cottages, has passed the 3 million threshold. It's very, very obvious. And so even if the farmer is lucky enough to be married and can pass on to his or her spouse tax-free, the reality is that family farms will get chunked up. Bits will have to be sold off to pay inheritance tax.
More recently, she has been focusing on the high street.
You've recently started a campaign to keep Romsey's post office. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So the post office in Romsey was one of the 115 that the post office published on a list that I'm not going to describe it as earmarked for closure, but they're considering close. The Romsey post office still provides a whole range of services that are difficult to find in other post office branches. So things like the passport checking service. Weirdly, Romsey post office is one of the ones where you can get that done, which you can't in any other post office in Southampton.
Before she became Deputy Speaker, she used to be the chair of the Women and Equality Select Committee, fighting for ordinary women and her colleagues.
Do you think there should be safeguarding for threats and online bullying for women politicians?
I think for any woman in the public eye, it's tougher than it is for men. And over the past, I'd probably say 5 to 10 years, we've seen a significant increase in the number of threats issued against female politicians. And it's now rare to encounter a colleague who doesn't have either an individual with a restraining order against them or people with criminal convictions for harassment, both online and in person. The idiots usually go after you for your appearance, your weight, your hair colour. They didn't like your shoes. And it's the abuse, no, nothing hurts me. I always say you'd have to be really quite gratuitously abusive to my face in order to even get me to react.
Reese Huggett, Winchester News Online.
NHS waiting lists for gynecology appointments across the UK have more than doubled since February 2020, with more women than ever going left with undiagnosed endometriosis, a condition which can cause agonising pain and is often only solved with surgery. Olympia Kamrich finds out more.
This is what endometriosis looks like, a debilitating illness that can paralyse every part of your body anywhere and at any time. This pain can also occur outside of periods. With over 190 million women affected with endometriosis globally, many are dismissed, belittled and misdiagnosed by medical practitioners, such as menstrual health volunteer Francine Taylor.
I was told I had absolutely nothing wrong with me, everything was normal in there, and if I'd have believed that, I would have, as has been confirmed by my current consultant, I would have eventually lost both my bowel and my bladder.
But how often does endometriosis go undiagnosed?
Very often I'll get a report that goes back, no endometriosis seen, but that does not mean you haven't got endometriosis, it's just that they haven't seen it on a scan. And it also doesn't mean that you've got mild endometriosis or minimal endometriosis. It could be severe, it's just they haven't been able to see it on a scan.
So that just leaves the question, how many women are left feeling let down by their GPs? I found an online foundation dedicated to endometriosis sufferers to see if the volunteers had experienced anything similar to Francine.
These past couple of minutes I've been chatting with an online advisor from the Endometriosis UK Foundation, where they have a web chat women can access for emotional support. This particular advisor told me that her GP would continuously tell her that she just had bad periods, but following a laparoscopy in January earlier this year, she was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis.
On average in the UK, it takes around 8.9 years for endometriosis to be diagnosed, with over 750,000 women left waiting on the NHS list. Olympia Kamrich, Winchester News Online.
The Royal Hampshire County Hospital here in Winchester is one of few to introduce a new hyalotherapy treatment for cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy. The treatment aims to improve the quality of life to those suffering the harsh side effects of chemotherapy. Mia Lawton is here to explain further.
Although chemotherapy is a crucial element in treating cancer, many patients who undergo treatment suffer from many side effects, a significant one being the numbness and pain of their hands and feet caused by nerve damage, leading many patients to reduce or completely stop their chemotherapy. Over recent years, we have seen the development of hyalotherapy, a thermal healing treatment using controlled temperatures. It benefits cancer patients by keeping the tissue temperature cool in the hands and feet during their chemotherapy sessions, which helps reduce nerve damage. A limitation this treatment previously saw was the temperature would fluctuate and as a result was not fully effective. But from the funding by ARC Cancer Charity and the Edwina Mountbatten and Elora Children's Foundation, a new hyalotherapy technology called Hyalotherm has been introduced to a small number of hospitals across the UK, one being Winchester's local hospital, the Royal Hampshire County Hospital. These new hyalotherapy machines have sensors to ensure the temperature does not fluctuate while the patient undergoes their chemotherapy sessions, meaning the device can be used effectively for hours at a time. This new technology should provide peace of mind to the patients worried about the side effects of their chemotherapy and encourage them to continue with their treatment.
Since COVID, children's mental health has been significantly impacted, and with more children spending time at home over the festive period, there are concerns about an increase in suffering from varying types of abuse. Connor Johnson is here with the details.
With the Christmas holidays just around the corner, many children look forward to having time off school and spending time at home with their families, but for some, this is a time they dread. This Christmas, the NSPCC expects to receive a call from a child via Childline every 45 seconds. Figures from this year show that the NSPCC handled almost 4,000 child welfare contacts about domestic abuse, an almost 20% increase from the previous year. Sarah Lamley, who works for the NSPCC, said, "Christmas should be a time of excitement, but sadly, for some children, it can be a moment in the year when problems at home come to a head, triggering issues like domestic abuse." The charity says that coercive or controlling behaviour and emotional domestic abuse have increased by 50%. The figures show that over Christmas, there will be thousands of children across the UK in need of help for a range of worries and concerns. And the good news is, there are loads of services and organisations willing to help those in need, such as Childline and DART, both run by the NSPCC and Mind, the mental health charity.
The M3 southbound faced heavy delays after one lane was blocked on approach to Eastleigh. Southampton Travel has since posted that the incident has been cleared, but heavy traffic remains. Vision Direct found that Hampshire was the worst recorded county for injuries and casualties in road accidents. Hampshire has recorded 109 accidents caused by bad eyesight between 2014 and 2023. Refunds have been offered for an event at the Great Hall in Winchester after visitors called Santa's beard blatantly fake. Those who attended called the experience shambles as Santa was dressed in a cheap red suit and found the interaction awkward. Now we have Lenny Teague with the sport.
Thank you, Maeve. Lenny Teague here with a short and swift Winol Sport Roundup. Storm Darragh took hold of football this weekend with games being called off for most Hampshire teams. Winchester City were due to travel to Taunton Town, but with Devon catching the worst of the storm, they were forced to postpone the game. Farnborough also saw their home tie with Hornchurch called off. Neither match has been given a new date just yet. Basingstoke Town was set for a trip to Wales to play Merthyr, but the storm also caused that game to be played another day. Eastleigh's trip to face Hanwell Town in the FA Trophy was cancelled, with the two sides now set to face off this evening. Aldershot Town were one of few non-league teams not to face the wrath of the weather, with their game against Wealdstone going ahead. The Shots won 3-1 to put themselves in the hat for the next round of the FA Trophy. And in the Bucks League, the University of Winchester women's football team were held to a 2-2 draw by local rivals Solent Women, and Rebecca Perez-Taylor went down to Bar End to tell us all about it.
Winchester's women's football are facing off against Solent Women's Seconds once again this season, but this time at home. After a 6-0 defeat last time they played Solent, the Geckos started off strong with a good opportunity that was stopped by the goalie. Solent also didn't hold back, but were met with the same fate as their rivals' keeper stopped their shot. First goal of the game came in the 20th minute, with Winchester's number 6 shooting the ball into the back of the net. Second goal for the home team came a few minutes after, with Lola Darch getting the ball right past the keeper to double Winchester's lead. Solent ended the first half with a goal that slipped away from the Winchester keeper. After the second half started, Solent managed to score an equaliser in the 70th minute, making it 2-2. After the game became a draw, you could sense the tension from both teams. Winchester tried their best for a goal in the last minutes that ended with one of the players getting a warning from the referee. But a few minutes later, after a foul, it was turned into a yellow card for number 12. First one for the Geckos in the last few seasons. And the Geckos finished their last game of 2024, but still have plenty of games next year, starting with Plymouth in January.
We're getting better at working together, communicating. There's still bits we need to work on, like defence, making sure everyone's communicating, covering the gaps, as we saw.
Rebecca Perez-Taylor, Winchester News Online.
And that's all the sport we have for you today. Back to you, Maeve.
Thanks, Lenny. The Santa Fun Run around Winchester has returned for another year. The event raises money for Naomi House and Jack's Place, hospices that care for children and young adults in Hampshire. Mariella Southern went to see the runners who are getting into the true spirit of Christmas.
Hats off to the people of Winchester who started warming up in the early morning for an exciting charity event.
This morning, approximately 750 people arrived outside of the Guildhall in Winchester to complete a Santa Fun Run.
We are running 2 kilometres or 5 kilometres, depending on what you choose, in order to raise funds for Naomi House and Jack's Place, to keep us going and keep us able to do the job that we do.
The runners began checking in at 8 a.m. and collected their special Santa t-shirts before hundreds of them headed to the start line.
Naomi House and Jack's Place costs around about £8.5 million a year to deliver all of our plans and services. We support the area's poorest children and young adults. Children and young adults with life-limiting and life-threatening conditions. That cost is the provision of nurses, the provision of carers, the provision of our amazing hospices up in Sutton, Scotland, just up the road from here in Winchester. And we have to deliver all but just over 10% of that from fundraising and from the resources we've got.
It didn't take long for people to start crossing the finish line, including some famous festive characters.
I really loved the environment and the energy, seeing all the kids chit-chatter. There was a few like 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and hearing them go, oh, my legs are a bit tired, and I was like, yep, that doesn't change.
Run was fantastic, really well organised, good atmosphere, great route. Yeah, good fun.
Raising over £20,000, the Santas of Winchester have delivered. Mariella Southern, Winchester News Online.
Christmas is full steam ahead, but are you feeling festive yet? The Watercress Line, a heritage railway between Alresford and Alton, has welcomed the return of its Christmas light experience for the 5th year running. Reporter Kieran Tibbert hopped aboard to get into the Christmas spirit.
All aboard Hampshire's Polar Express.
Welcome aboard, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this festive celebration on rails.
Christmas is just around the corner, and the annual Steam Illuminations experience has returned to the Watercress Line. The steam train is lit up with an array of colours, both inside and out, and it certainly gets everyone feeling in the Christmas spirit.
Everyone who I've talked to has absolutely loved it, and as do I and all the other members of staff here. It's such a wonderful thing to be a part of.
Founder of the event, Simon Horn, said,
"The Christmas music was very carefully chosen to be both recognisable to all ages, while full of energy and musical detail to programme the lighting too. We are the only railway in the UK that's run 2 light trains at the same time, so you get the magic of watching one pass while you're on the other."
On board, passengers can look out to twinkling lights and the local surroundings bursting with colour. The voiceover guy, heard on TV shows like The X Factor, help make it a magical journey for all.
Time for the greatest Christmas song of all time.
Yeah, very good. A lot of hard work put into it. Yeah, brilliant. The kids loved it. The wife loved it.
I think it's quite cool.
What's been the best bit so far?
Probably the lights.
Next Christmas. It's the start of Christmas for us, so yeah, really good.
So if you weren't in the Christmas spirit, you certainly are now. Kieran Tibbert, Winchester News Online.
Have you had roasted chestnuts or mulled wine yet this year? Well, 400,000 people visit Winchester Cathedral's Christmas market every year to do things like this. James Baker checked out the city's top tourist attraction to get a taste of some of the cathedral's festivities.
Christmas spirit is in full flow at Winchester's top tourist attraction. Winchester Cathedral's Advent Evensong is just one of many Christmas time services that attract residents as well as tourists. The impressive lay clerk's hymns echo off the cathedral walls, and the Advent story is told through readings and prayer.
Can't explain really. It was magical. We wanted to come here. We've come a long way to come here to travel to see the cathedral because it's one of the places where we wanted to come to one of the places, and then we found out about some Jane Austen and other bits. But we wanted to come to the evening song, especially because it's sang through the Bible and the ceremony is sang rather than, so it's just a bit more hairs on end, you know.
And if the festivities inside the cathedral aren't enough, then they have one of the most famous Christmas markets in the entire world just outside. Winchester Christmas Market returns every year with one of the more impressive backdrops. With over 100 wooden chalets, stalls range from traditional German Christmas ornaments to homemade chili sauces and brownies. Refreshment stands are littered throughout, and they certainly don't hold back when it comes to extravagance. James Baker, Winchester News Online.
That's all we have time for on Winol this week. Thanks for watching and Happy Christmas!